Hey everybody, this is Sherry. I'm using the Technique Tuesday Ritzy Mom Stamp Set along with the Hampton Art Prayers Stamp and Cut Set to make a card today. Now, I'm not showing the coloring for this card because this was my second attempt at watercoloring, and I have the first one. I'm not sure that I'm ever going to turn it into a card because I don't like it as well. But who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do. I saved it, so, and I'm just tickled that I can see I've come, a lot farther between the first piece and this one. And my daughter, who is an art therapy major, was the one who helped me figure out how to do it, because I tell you what, they make it look easy on here, and it is not easy in my opinion. So here I just took my grid paper and am using it to make sure that the word prayers is lined up the way that I want. I'm going to close the cover and pick up the word. And what I'm going to use for ink is I'm going to use Versamark clear ink and along with VersaFine ink, because I've found, in my opinion, that VersaFine dries faster than I can get to it. And you'll notice on this one that I stamped with the Versamark and then with the VersaFine, and then I hesitated for a little bit for some reason before I was able to, put the embossing powder on. And I even went over it a couple times with the Versamark, and I was not able to get it covered as much as I would have liked, but I still think that it turned out pretty good. And so I used my Versamark, now my VersaFine. And again, this is the first time that I had ever stamped on watercolor paper. And thank goodness I had the STD Royce made me. That's why, see, I have to wait, and I covered it with that stuff. I should have done that first too. But if I hadn't had my STD, I don't know how I would have done that correctly, because I think I had to stamp it like 3 times to get a good solid impression. And another thing about that I've learned about watercoloring is that I had some paper I bought at the store, and it was Strathmore and all this stuff, and it sounded like it was the same thing that they were using, Christina Warner and Jennifer McGuire and those ladies were using, and it wasn't. It was Strathmore water paper, but it wasn't the same. And so I followed one of their links, Jennifer McGuire's links, one day, and got some of the ones that she used. And it's a 500 series cold press, 140-pound paper. It is probably 3 times thicker than what I had been using that I bought from the store. So, if you're trying to learn to watercolor like me, maybe really go and, investigate the things that they're saying they use, because it's not necessarily what you think it is. And I went and I got 3 of those, excuse me, I got 3 of the silver black velvet brushes, and I had been using my daughter's. And I actually love these silver black velvet brushes. They've come to a really, really fine tip, and I am just dying to try them with brush lettering. So I think, I know I really like them. And I'm just wiping off my stamp, making sure I get all that ink off. And you definitely got to make sure you don't leave any of the Versamark, because that's a sticky ink. I think it would not be good for your stamp. And then I always have a rag handy that I can just dry it up with, because I've always worried that it would mold or something if I left it wet. I don't know. I mean, nobody else has said it would, but, hey, what do I know? That's just how I do it. So I'm using my heat gun and melting the embossing powder. And again, like I said, it did not turn out as well as I had hoped, but it still turned out nice. It's not like the one I flubbed up the other day and had to completely cover up. So I guess I'm making progress. My big thing with this card was that I stamped it in a certain way because I wanted the flowers to go in a certain direction. And didn't realize till the very end that I put it upside down. And now, so instead of the mums coming from the bottom up, they're coming from the top down, which is not what I had planned, but, you know, hey, it's okay. You know, and I don't think anybody else but me and all of you guys who I told will even know the difference. And I really enjoyed it. There's my pink hair. But I really had fun doing this. It was my daughter and I sat down one day and she brought her stuff in and I brought mine, and I just have a cheap palette that I got from Michael's. It was a $30 palette, but I got a 60% off coupon, and that's what I used to get it, because I didn't want to invest in, you know, a lot of this I was going to if I was going to want, you know, not be any good at it or not want to do it any longer, Danae. And so, you know, I suggest that if you're going to do this, definitely try some of the less expensive products. It just, I think it'll make it easier for you to make up your mind and not waste any money. So here we go. I've put on the sentiment above the word prayers that I wanted, and it says "you're in my" and then prayers. And it just, I just think it's just pretty. I think it's elegant. I think it's pretty. And I think you can send it to anybody who's just, you know, maybe having a bad day or going through a rough patch at work or at home. And so I think that there are a lot of people that I could send it to. And I cut it down, and the watercolor layer is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. The black layer right there is 4 6/8 by 3 11/16. And I'm not used to cutting my stuff at that size because I usually go by the 1/4 inch. But because I didn't want to waste this paper, and I didn't know if this would turn out well enough to use for a card. So what I did was I cut one of the 5x7 sheets in half, and I used that for whatever I was going to do. It was going to fit on that piece of watercolor paper. And so that meant I just had to kind of have wonky sizes, but it was not a big deal. It was just, you know, you don't even have to measure it. Just cut it a little bigger than what you've made yourself for your watercolor sheet, if you know you're not into that kind of measuring thing. Then I'm just putting this together on an A2 size card base from Recollections 110-pound cardstock, putting my top layer on, and you'll see here in a second, I'm like, I think that was supposed to go the other way. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Thanks for visiting me today, and happy crafting.